and welcome to the Pig and Whistle Tales from Azeroth. As always, here at the Pig and Whistle in Instalment, we go for a variety of subjects with regards to World of Warcraft. So grab a bottle or a pint, sit back and enjoy. This episode, we will be going over, or not going over, but we'll be doing a Q&A of questions that have been asked and put forward towards me, and I'm going to be answering these questions. Some of them are going to be more personal than others, some of them are going to be just about WoW in general, in specific cases, etc, etc. But we obviously start off with the weekly news as always. We are starting off with the world bosses for this week, our aggregation of horrors, as well as the Godfather. These can be located within Hellefall, as well as the Undermine. Battlegrounds and Legion Time Walking are your bonus events for the week. Battlegrounds, you get more honour for completing them, and to Legion Time Walking you can buy cosmetics, mounts, reputations, using Time Walking badges by completing Time Walking or Legion Time Walking dungeons. Very simple. And as your brawl for the week, you have Gravity Lapse. Gravity Lapse is based in Eye of the Storm only, and essentially every 30 seconds you're flung up into the air and able to relocate quite effectively and quickly whilst doing so. Obviously, this is a bit trickier for melees to hit people in the air, definitely ranged have more of an advantage, but you know, it's still good fun, it's still a good way to mess with people. There are certain ways that you can mess with people for sure. As for that is the weekly news. We'll be starting off with the first question that I have picked out, and that is we're going to go with something simple and then go into the longer questions is the best way to do this. So my favourite mount. Now, there are thousands of mounts, I think literally thousands of mounts in World of Warcraft, but there's two answers to this. There's one that I use because I'm more sentimental towards it, because I earned it really well and I'm happy with it and it holds a certain memory for me. And then there's one that I just think looks the coolest. So what I'm going to do is give you the first answer, and that is the Shadowlands gladiator dragon, basically. The Unchained Glad mount from Season 2 of Shadowlands. The reason I enjoy this mount is, even though it was a super inflated season, I get that, but it's my first ever gladiator mount, and still to this day is my only gladiator mount, and I didn't, get boosted or anything. I did it with people who are newer to the game, like literally recently just started up again, and I did it with a randomer. So I'm really happy. Again, it was a super inflated season, but it was my first glad mount, my only glad mount to date. And even though I'm better at the game now than when I was back then, it's tougher because of MMR and inflation to get the glad, hence why I haven't been able to since. Definitely not without trying, but I'm definitely at a better point when playing now than I was when I got my glad. But this mount definitely holds a special place because it is the very first glad mount that I ever earn in the game, and I'm hoping that I'm going to earn some more throughout the years. I really, really am, and I believe that I will. I genuinely believe that I will. So that's the first part to that answer. The second part is basically a glorified what is cooler contest, isn't it? And I do have to... It's really tough. There's so many good ones. There's Invincible, there's Ashes of Allah, there's... even like the Nether Drake mounts from Burning Crusade. All of these are very, very cool mounts. But, oof. I'm going to go for something that's obviously going to be a boring answer. But I think it's Invincible. And the reason that I say that is mainly due to the fact it being from one of the most notorious villains of Warcraft ever. Super notorious, probably the most notorious villain in the game. So, there's that. Plus, a horse with wings, an undead horse with wings. Who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want an undead horse with wings? Obviously, Ashes of Allah is so cool. It's more fantasy. It's, there's more to it. But the lore behind Arthas and, Invincible... and you can see where Invincible was raised in game. if you go into Tirisfal Glades and you go to Balnir Farmstead, there is a grave for Invincible there, and it reads what Arthur's put on that plaque, like the day Invincible died due to its leg basically being broken running through snow, basically. That's it. Yeah, and it's quite sad, to be honest, that to be able to see this mount and to be able to honestly be like, yes, I have it as a kind of flex is kind of cool. I get that many people want this mount, and I hope that many people do. I hope everyone that is actively trying to farm it does achieve that goal in getting the mount. I really, really do. Because I'm the type of person who doesn't really care if people all have the same mount and stuff. I still think it's cool regardless. But I digress. Honestly, I think that there are other choices in terms of favourite mount, but I've got to go with that. It's that or, honestly, Baron Riverdale mount. And you might be thinking, but that's just a different undead horse model. Yes, it is. But I predominantly play Alliance, and when I first saw this mount, and I saw that it was an undead horse, I was like, yo, I gotta have that. And this is the only mount that I've actively tried to farm for in Stratholme. It's the only mount that I actively attempted to farm, okay? And that's important. I have not actively intended to farm anything else. Now, there are close thirds, fourths, fifths, places. Some of them, I would say, you got Jaina's Water Elemental mount from Battle for Azeroth, from the Battle for Dazar'alor, that raid. You obviously have Ashes of Alar. Obviously, that is one of the most sought after things in World of Warcraft as a whole, without a doubt. These are the ones that you think, yeah, these are really, really cool. So I can kind of understand it. But honestly, there's so many cool mounts. It's really tough and really, what's the word I'm looking for? Opinion based. That's the word. That it doesn't really matter what I say. Everyone's going to have a different sort of opinion. It's going to be very rare that people will go, yeah, that is the coolest mount. So hence why I went with Invincible for the safest option. But I went with a more sentimental one with the Unchained Gladiators Soul Eater, I believe that it's called. That's my personal favourite. The next question is, what could you improve in WoW? Or what could improve WoW, sorry. It's very tough, but what can improve WoW is... it's a very tough answer because there are so many things that you would want to see in WoW. Player housing, they're already doing that. You want to see more PvE content, more different ways to add player power, but not... player power, not like artifacts or what was the other one, Azerite and stuff like this. No AP sort of grind, and they are doing that. They're taking away the grindiness of the game in retail, whereas you still have classic now, which is your go-to WoW grind almost, where you're grinding through the levels. So you have a smoother game that's easier to pick up, but late game is a lot tougher. And then you have a game that's very grindy at the start, but very much not end game based in Classic. So you have two different variations, which is very good. In terms of improvement in WoW, I think the best thing to improve WoW is something that can come from outside of WoW. And that would be communication. Okay? The devs do a good job at communicating when patches are going live, when PTR is going out, and stuff like that. That's great. I don't discourage that. I don't think that's bad. But PvP-wise is the one that upsets me. Now, I always thought of WoW as you've got PvE and PvP. Okay? They've always made it seem like that. But if you look at over the course of years what PvE has had added to it and what PvP has been added to, you will notice a large discrepancy in what has been added, basically. And if this was the other way around and it was flipped, PvEers would be losing their heads over it. They would. It's that simple. The amount of... Okay, let me put this into perspective. Since Classic, there has been 3 Battlegrounds, okay? We're going to take this expansion by expansion, basically. But all the way up until the War Within, how many Battlegrounds have been added into PvP? Let's just take that. I would say that you have about 10 to 15 Battlegrounds now. And I'm trying to think of them off of the top of my head. So no Warsong Gulch, Arathi Basin, and Outer Valley. We'll just say that they launched with Classic. Or they're in Classic. Okay, I know that some of them didn't launch with Classic, but it is what it is. In Burning Crusade, what did we get?
Let's take a quick break.
Ever wondered what a rhythm-based stealth game with dinosaurs might look like? Or a farming sim in space with zombies? Welcome to the Gaming Blender podcast. I'm Matt, and with my co-host Scott, we take a random game genre and random game mechanics, blend them all up, and pitch wild, totally hypothetical games you've never heard of, and maybe shouldn't. New episodes every other week. Hit play and unleash your inner game dev. No coding required. Search the Gaming Blender on your favourite podcast app now.
I can't remember. Eye of the Storm. Okay, so you got Eye of the Storm there. For Wrath of the Lich King, you got Winter Grasp, we'll say, and Isle of Conquest. Okay, so there's 3. Yeah. We with me so far. For Cataclysm, Tol Barad, we'll say, and Battle for Gilneas. I think that's 1, right? Yeah. Twin Peaks? I think Twin Peaks might have... Screw it, I'm going to say Twin Peaks. I'm going to list out all of the thingies. I'm trying to think of what actually we got. Temple of Kot Mogu, Silver Shard Mines. We got... I really can't remember the others. The latest, the War Within one, where you escort the mines and get the crystals, so that's 10. It is anywhere between 10 and 15 new Battlegrounds, okay? Now, put this into perspective with PvE. Every single patch, you're going to get a new raid. Okay, so we'll take PvE in Classic, for example. You have 4 raids. You have Molten Core, Blackwing Lair, Anchorage, Naxxramas. These are 40-player raids. These are main raids. We're not going to count Zul'Gurub and Anchorage there as well. Okay, we're just not going to count them. We'll say that. If you look into the future, you have 3 to 4 raids. I think it's 4 raids in Burning Crusade. From Mount Hyjal, Serpent Shrine, Black Temple, Sunwell, there's 4, as well as Zulaman, but again, that's a 10-player raid. We're not going to count these. Then you obviously have Undermine, Naxxramas revamp again, so I'm not going to count Naxxramas here, but Ulduar, sorry, Trial of the Crusader, and Icecrown Citadel. And then Ruby Sanctum as well. Can't forget Ruby Sanctum. It is technically a raid. It is the final raid of Wrath. Again, that's another 4, okay? If we keep going on, you got Cataclysm that had Bastion of Twilight, Firelands, there was another one that released alongside Bastion of Twilight. Oh, Blackwing Descent. You have Dragon Soul. So again, another 4. You're getting 4 per expansion, basically, okay? And this is just raids. This is just pure raids. If you are to include all of the PvE content that was added during that time as well, such as, let's say, take Dragonflight for example, the Elemental world stuff, you got the Nokhud offensive stuff, you have multiple sort of things happening PvE-wise around Azeroth or the zones that are currently ongoing, you are looking at a very much 95 to 5% maybe PvE to PvP scale. And that's quite sad. So to answer your question, I would need a lot more communication on the PvP side of things to improve WoW. Because I feel like as a PvP player that we do not get enough said about it or mentioned about it. It's always, oh yeah, this is great. We're going to get player housing, PvE. We're going to get a new raid, PvE. We're going to get new Mythic Plus rotations, PvE. We're going to get all of this stuff. There's like phase diving in the next patch, PvE. You know, all of this. Again, in the next patch, we get a world World PvP Island or something. Yeah? The only purpose that this will serve is for, firstly, Rex Troy. If you don't know him, he's a YouTuber who breaks World of Warcraft basically with mechanics that are within the game. That the game is within. He just breaks the game. So he'll do that in World PvP. But essentially, it's going to be there for a week or two for people to get 1 or 2 pieces of bloody token gear, and then no one will go there. No actual PvP will go there, I don't believe. Not for anything apart from content related, and there's not many of that. So it's really tough. It really, really is. But I think that to improve WoW, there needs to be more communication on what might actually be happening. And I know that they're doing Gamescom and they're going to talk about all of this stuff then. But I bet you when Gamescom comes out, I usually have so much hope when it comes to announcing different PvE or PvP changes. But it's always just, oh yeah, player housing is going to be this month. The new raid is going to be this. This is what's happening to Azeroth. You know, all of that stuff. And for PvP, it's like, yeah, we got a new battleground. It's got carts that you can travel on. And that's it. Apart from that, you escort a crystal, which is basically a capture the flag. And you move a cart, which is basically silver shard mines. Yeah, it's a little bit upsetting. So to improve WoW, I would like them to communicate more on the PvP side of things. That's all. Next question is, what is the worst part about WoW? Well, I mean, gone over quite a few things, but in my honest opinion, WoW has had many bad ideas. Okay, many bad ideas. Okay, all the way from 40-man raids, which, yes, don't get me wrong, are amazing back in Classic. Okay, but let's face it, try and get 40 people together. It's an absolute headache to do. Okay, especially if people are playing casual, working, they don't have the time on the weekends, something comes up, family, IRL stuff happens. So many stuff happens. Okay, getting 40 active people constantly each week is very tough, and there will be burnout eventually because of the different way that people like to play games and stuff like that. All the way up to garrisons. You know, garrisons were not great to start with, and then you obviously have artifacts where it's in Legion, artifacts were introduced. Amazing, great for an expansion, but then they went into the heart of Azeroth and Azerite powers, and then they went into Shadowlands with conduits. There's been so many mistakes and bad parts about WoW. But honestly, sometimes it's us that are the worst part about WoW, the player base. And I think a lot of people might agree with that, because the player base screams out for, oh, we want this, we want that, we want this. And when we get it, it isn't implemented correctly because, let's face it, it was never a good idea in the first place. We have done that before, and we have actively chose to pursue things to be brought into WoW, but end up being awful for the game itself. Okay, it's just one of them things that's going to happen. But what I mean by us is the player base as a whole in terms of the toxicity. We trying to interact with someone, you are effectively doing a coin flip, okay? This coin flip, maybe back in 2004 to 2010, WoW or anywhere online, you're thinking, okay, you've got a decent chance of, you know, talking to someone and they be polite. But as the years goes on, as the internet trolls and memes and, you know, people just realise that, oh, I can just be a dickhead and not suffer any sort of repercussions, people start to become sort of hostile in the game, or just actively mean for no reason and act stupid and all of that. So what I mean by this is the community that we sometimes have in WoW itself. Whether a new player dies because they simply accidentally pulled something with a pet, like a hunter pet, okay, that's fine. Look, it happens. It's not the end of the world. But some people sit there and then start yelling at the person for pulling this, and they're sat there like, I have no idea what I did. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. Because they didn't. They're just pulling, like, mobs. Okay? They accidentally pulled some mobs. That's all it is. Like, we need to do better as a community to help the game become more and more welcoming for newer players, because it isn't at the moment. It's alongside it being a big MMO that's been out for 20 plus years now, so there is a lot to dissect. We are just putting on the pressure when it comes to how we act towards each other in game. Obviously not everyone's like this, but there is a decent amount of people that are very toxic within the game, and I think that is the worst part about WoW, in my honest opinion. Swiftly moving on, do you wish that you could start WoW over again? This is the one that I'm going to end on the episode, but this is a really tough question. If I ask you this question, when you started WoW, back in 2010, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, or even the later years in 2023, 2022, 2021, would you restart it again? And why would you? I have to argue both sides here, because I would love to restart playing WoW again. I would adore not knowing anything about WoW, getting told to play this game, and falling in love with the game all over again. Okay, I love it in many different ways because of the active brain stimulation and dopamine effect that it gives my brain. I love it because of just everything about it, the ambience, the music, the class fantasy. I have so many memories on the game, and this is an amazing thing. And I wish that I would never lose that, because I know that this is a comfort game. I know that this is one of the best games that I've ever played. And people say the same thing. When we're going through classics, I remember playing Wrath of the Lich King, very vaguely, but I remember one of my earliest memories being killing the Lich King. And going back to Wrath Classic and killing the Lich King is a very nostalgic thing for me. And it was something that I enjoyed doing with the people that I finally did that with, which is the guild that I'm in, World Classic. And that was very nostalgic. But people don't remember that. And people now in Mists of Pandaria remember Mists of Pandaria. This is their first expansion that they remember quite well. And they are feeling more and more nostalgic about it. And that's the thing about this game. If you've played it for this long, you're going to have these moments where you're feeling nostalgic. But there's also people who are learning about this expansion for the first time. People who have never played Mists of Pandaria. People who have never played Warlords of Draenor, or Wrath, or Burning Crusade, or Legion, BFA, Shadowlands. And this is a new experience for them. And that's what I would love to do. To be able to experience all of these expansions again, as well as the ones that come out in retail, which is Midnight and The Last Titan and stuff like that. Because it's always a feeling of, I don't know what's going to happen, and it's really cool. But to start it all over again as well would be magical. It would just be magical. I've said this so many times. My very first character by myself was a Night Elf Druid. Still playing it to this day. It is still my main. It is still there. And I love that Druid. That Druid is so good. I remember getting to level 5, level 6, walking to Dolinar and seeing that big treant. That giant guarding, the guardian of the town, basically. The giant treant, the Teldrassil Protector or whatever it's called. And it was amazing. I was fascinated by it. The music that surrounded it as I walked past it as well in Darnassus, or not Darnassus, but Teldrassil, is just so... It's ingrained in my brain. That's how good it was. And to experience that again would be mesmerizing. It really, really would. I have yet to find a game that has made me go, yeah, this is the one compared to World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft is the only game that I've ever been able to do or think like that and be like, yeah, this is the game. This is the game for me. Tried many other MMOs, they just don't hit the same. They really don't. Tried so many games. So many games. None of them hit the same. Some of them are a comfort pick and games that I've played for years. Heroes of Might and Magic 3, Stronghold Crusader, all of these different games. They're always games that I can go back to and be like, yeah, this is good fun, this is a chill time. But nothing will ever beat WoW. So yes, I would love to go and experience that again. But I kind of have. And that's the thing. I have experienced that again with the release of Classic. And then the Burning Crusade Classic, and then Wrath Classic especially. This is when I was like, yeah, this is what I remember. This is nostalgic. And that's the fun part of it. That really, really is. But that is where I will end it for this episode. Thank you all very much for listening. Do check out all of the socials down below. Constant stuff happening, as well as multiple things happening on the Etsy shop. Be sure to check it out. But thank you all very much once again. And go with Valor, friend. Goodbye all.